guys, and welcome to this new episode of the Race Marshals on the Sports Republic channel. And today we'll be discussing about the crazy Abu Dhabi Grand Prix that happened on Sunday and how Max Verstappen, against all odds, came out the winner of the race and also of the title of the 2021 F1 World Championship. And in this episode of the Race Marshals, we'll be talking about the season review and, of course, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix that just took place and the legendary Kimi Raikkonen's retirement. And will Max be able to defend his title? And also some good and bad moments of the season. So today we have an entire new lineup. We have Ruben and we have Bhargav and total F1 crazy fans. And I'll be starting with Ruben. Ruben, so what was your reaction about the race that happened last night?
I don't know where to begin with last night's race. I still haven't got my thoughts over it. I still haven't crystallized my thoughts over it. It was a complete, I think it completely justified this entire season that we had. It was a complete roller coaster that we had this entire season. And this last race also completely justified it. I wouldn't have wanted to have it any other way. And it started off, the race started off with, we were expecting some other kind of things, like, because they said that the Mercedes was the quicker car over here, but you had Max on pole and you had Max starting on the soft tire.
Absolutely.
And you had Lewis starting on the dirty side of the grid, and he had medium tires on, and everybody expected Max to take it off the line. And he's the late breaker. He's the best late breaker right now over there. And everybody expected him, and then we expected a fight to go on during the entire race. But it was completely different. It was Lewis had a blinder of the start, and Max very uncustomarily he had a slow start in the finale.
I'll come to that. It was like 0.1 second difference. Literally, that was 0.25. The start of this point was 3.5, and that 0.1 made a hell lot of difference.
0.35. Yeah. In fact, I think nobody was discussing that Lewis would be getting ahead of Max, and I don't think the strategists also, I don't know, went over there. So it was a very different thing. And then the race kind of went into an anti-climax only. Like, people thought, this is the finale, and Lewis is just pulling away, and like it seemed that Red Bull had no answer for their pace at all. But yes, everything turned on its head towards the VSC and then the safety car, and it was a great finale.
So Bhargav, now we've already had our thoughts on Max Verstappen just washed up at the start, and Lewis was anyways good. It was a Mercedes circuit. Do you think that Lewis would have pitted at least once, either in the virtual safety car or the safety car, at least once, to have a fresher set of tires?
So Savio, I really expected Mercedes Lewis to pit at least during the virtual safety car, because he had enough laps to go ahead and retake the lead in the championship. But unfortunately for them, they thought keeping the track position was their foremost priority at that sense, and that also could be because of the pace advantage Mercedes had on the hard tire as well. So, I mean, they were really pulling away from Max, and they were like, why should we compromise? And I think Lewis was indeed shocked, and he wanted to pit really, because he was complaining to his engineers that, how did Max cut back 20 seconds pit stop into like 10 seconds? So why aren't we pitting me? So I think they should have gone for it. And all the more reason is that in the last lap, the way Lewis really pulled through and attacked Max, even on those old tires. Had he had a bit of fresh tires, I think he would have gotten a fighting chance in the final lap, and that maybe could have changed the game altogether.
And coming to that, cutting that gap from 20 seconds to 10 seconds, I think Sergio Perez should be given one round of applause for that.
Oh, I swear.
That was
the Mexican Ministry of Defense.
Absolutely. How he held up. And the thing is that Hamilton passed him and he just couldn't go ahead. And Perez had his batteries charged up. He took the slipstream and again he overtook at the same corner. It was absolutely brilliant. And Max did legendary stuff. I never expected at least to take it down to 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, and Perez was on very, very old soft tires. I think he was on some 20
Yeah,
old soft tires. And in spite of that, he was able to defend Hamilton, who was on like fresh, new, hard rubbers. And I think there was on that slow bit of the slow corners of the track, he really slowed down a lot. He really slowed and he positioned the car very, very well in all the, on the corners, on the apexes, so that Hamilton just couldn't do that. And in a way, I don't know, like Savi, I don't know if you remember the 2016 championship between Hamilton and Rosberg,
Rosberg.
which went down
To the
to
last race
the
in Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi. And he did the same thing actually, but Hamilton was in the front and
Yeah,
Rosberg was second. And I think Vettel was in
Vettel was
third.
third.
Vettel was third. And Hamilton was doing the
He
same
almost
thing. He
had
was
him.
trying to slow Rosberg at the very same track and so that Vettel could overtake him. I think Vettel saw it from the distance, and I think he said, my German compatriot,
I'll keep
I
him
won't
safe.
overtake him. Yeah,
Yeah,
but it
that
was
that
great to see.
but Mercedes
Yes.
actually had a handicap with Bottas. Had a bad start, and he didn't had a good qualifying itself. So Mercedes'
Yeah,
strategy actually washed up over there also. So when we
yeah,
come to Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, was a culmination of all the events that took place over 22 races. And we talk about the season, the first race, Verstappen takes pole and Lewis wins the race. And then you thought it's the same old story. Mercedes is going to win, Lewis is going to win. There's no competition like in 2020, where Bottas took the first race. But that was just like, no, you take the first race, I'll take the season. But after that, do you think where did Max Verstappen mature? What was his turning point for him that he said, "No, this is my championship"?
So I think, uh, I think it was the entire rule change that happened in the beginning of this year. At least that's how I see it. I think when they shifted to the 2021 change rules, I think the FIA introduced some new regulations which said that the rear floor cannot be. They introduced some changes around the rear floor of the car, which
Yes,
basically affected Mercedes a lot. I think, and especially all the low rake cars like Mercedes and Aston Martin, and it favored the high rake cars. But apart from the technical thing, I think Max has like as you said, he has matured a lot over these years. He's still very, very aggressive, but I don't think he's as rash as he was over these past couple of years. But yes, Max really matured over this year. But yes, it was great
and
to see watch
Bhargav,
that.
Max has matured. Hamilton was anyways mature. We know Hamilton. Hamilton was rash at the start, but then after 30s, they become a little bit more composure and they know that we have everything in our control. Do you think Max had it in his control when he won the Mexican Grand Prix or the Brazilian Grand Prix, where suddenly everyone thought, oh, now this is Lewis's title? Where do you think the momentum shifted in these two races?
Yeah. So obviously Lewis's spicy engine or the roaring engine has made all the difference in the final phase of the championship. So I think there was no there was no hindrance to the. I mean, there was no match to the pace that they had pulled up after the new combustion unit, and I think Red Bull had to pull things out of their hat, like how they tried the toe with Perez
I had to
in
outsmart
the
them.
last qualifying. Yeah, they had to outsmart him in other ways. So they went for the soft tire strategy. They tried everything, and it ultimately uh, paid off for them. Fortunately.
Ultimately, it paid off because it is very hard to beat Mercedes and the money that they have. And Hamilton has a lot of backing in either way, physically, mentally. But for Verstappen, it was his first fight. So he was in new, uncharted territory. Hamilton was like the boss guy. I'm over here since like so many years now, and I've seen last race battles since my first year. You're a new kid. I don't have pressure. It was a good race. Now Abu Dhabi was a mad race, a mad season. We'll just shift our focus a little bit because a legend has retired, Kimi Raikkonen. Now, for us, for everyone out there, the audience will be thinking that Kimi Raikkonen retired with only one title. Why will he be legend? So Kimi Raikkonen is basically a Finnish driver and one of the most coolest guys ever. I had this image where he was sleeping 20 minutes before his F1 debut. He was that cool.
Yeah,
He didn't care about the world. In Monaco
yeah,
Grand Prix, last decade, no, early this decade, so he had a crash. He went on one of the yachts, one of the people
Yeah,
in the race, and he was drinking beer with them. He's one of
yeah.
those cool type of guys. So, what do you think? He had a very bad race. He got a driver already, emotionally, but unfortunately, he couldn't complete the race. So, Bhargav, what do you think? Will F1 miss this most experienced guy on the grid?
Of course, because half the memes I've seen are of Kimi Raikkonen abusing the shit out of his team members and the engine rest. And in fact, the tagline that they wrote on his car for the last race was just epic, and it just sums up: "We'll leave you alone now, Kimi."
Yeah, correct.
So yeah, the Iceman going is a real tragedy, at least for the meme fest, and of course the fun part of any Grand Prix that we get to see.
Yes, Ruben, your take on him.
Yeah, no, so actually have a theory, I think, why he retired, because, I think he was voted as the driver of the day yesterday. And you know how for every driver of the day, they always have a mandatory interview at the end of the race. I think he just wanted to skip that and he decided to like retire his car probably.
I remember that there was this episode on Netflix, and he was asked that, what do you like more about F1? Will you stay ahead? Then he says, no, F1 is a hobby. And one of the
Yeah.
most strangest reasons, how can you drive a 300-kilometer car or 300 kmph car, okay, with 1,000 horsepower, and say it is a hobby? He was that cool. He didn't give a damn about anything else, and that's what made him great. Although he was in a very inferior Alpha, but as long he was in a Lotus, Ferrari, McLaren, it was quite good. And those days he was fighting with Schumi and Alonso. It was legendary. So, yeah,
No, the great thing about Kimi actually is, he is one person I would say who really loved racing. I don't think he cared anything else about what was happening around Formula One. He hated the PR side of it, the media
the full
appearances side of
circus.
it, the interview. He was called the interviewer's nightmare. It was all unemotional and monosyllabic and one-word answers, and he just hated that. But his racing was, especially, I remember, I think Bhargav and I were just discussing this the other day during, I think it was the Belgian qualifying many years ago. And I think one of the cars, I think Kimi was trying to get onto pole, and one of the cars had blown up their engine, and it was a huge plume of smoke that was coming over there. And everybody said, "Oh, now Kimi's going to have to lift. Kimi's going to have to lift, and there's no way he's going to get that pole." But he floored it. There was a huge plume of smoke, but he still floored it, and he went right through it. And then I remember all the commentators were saying either he was a hero or he was complete nuts. But yeah, that sums up Kimi.
Yeah,
He
like
was,
nothing was visible. That was such a risky move.
Yeah.
you were actually someone. There are very few people who just want to race, who have no affection for the material things, and it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the few people who was out there with 100 podiums. So,
Yeah.
like we've been just reminded, and the stats all say it for you. So now,
And even what's very memorable about Kimi is his days in Lotus. I think when he retired in 2009 and 10, and he came back,
yeah,
I think the Lotus bosses had struck a deal with him, which said that he earns 50,000 euros for every 1 point.
oh
And
yeah, man,
and I think and then they didn't expect him to finish on so many podiums and get so many points. And I think at the end of it, he was to be paid some 19.5 million or something, and he essentially bankrupted Lotus only.
actually, that is what they say, that Lotus went out only because of Kimi Raikkonen, and it was very strange that someone is scoring points for you, and that was a very dangerous clause. I don't know how do you put such clause in it, but it was completely wrong. So again we go to the next topic, and we talk about a favorite moment. So remove Max Verstappen, remove Lewis Hamilton. It is not possible. Just remove these two guys. What was your moment? What was the thing that you felt that, okay, this is something that we wanted to see, and this is something that we didn't want to see, or maybe anything, both, from this season?
One thing which obviously tilted the whole scenario was the British Grand Prix and the infamous Cobb's Corner move between Lewis and Max.
Right.
So that was one of the highlights, obviously, and that's what I think made the whole fight bitter between both the teams. But that apart, there are other. So one of the other best moments that I have really seen was the tow in Abu Dhabi Grand Prix between Perez and Max. Red Bull coming together, fighting together is one of the rare things that we've got to see over the years when they didn't have a constant good second driver.
Second, yeah.
Yeah. So those I think are some of the highlights.
I just before Ruben, I just told you that keep Max and Lewis aside, and she'll give me the first British wala answer. So the thing is that this season is such that Max and Lewis have to come out in each topic. It becomes very for the non-F1 fan, they will be thinking what crazy people they're just talking about two people. But yeah, it was one of those seasons. Yes, Ruben, your non-Max and non-Lewis favorite role.
So I think my highlights would be Baku GP because things completely turned around. Max crashed for no fault of his. His tire went off. Lewis hit the magic brake buttons. He went off. And we had a whole new podium there. We had Perez on the podium. And, yeah, it was a good thing for him also. He also bounced back to form. He said that give me 5 races, I will get back to form. And it was his 5th race and he was on the top step of the podium. Vettel, was good to see Vettel back on the podium after the horrible year he had in Ferrari last year. So I think Baku was definitely my highlights. And yeah, I think if you were to ask me what were the low points, it would be the last weekend's Saudi Arabian GP and the driving that we saw over there. It was, yeah.
Like I said, you cannot talk about any race without Max Verstappen. So I was supposed to say Ocon's victory was one of the highlights where no one expected, but that again happened because the Mercedes and Red Bull just came together, and this guy went from the side. No one even saw him. He was way behind at the back of the grid in the center, and suddenly, so that was one of the highlights. And the sad moment was for me, Charles Leclerc blowing off his engine in Monaco, and Lando not taking those wet tires. Lando, that was a big career mistake, I would say. Not even for the race, it was a big career mistake.
Yeah, it was a bit of immaturity, I think, from
the Hamilton played good. He knew that I have to take these tires, and it worked to his advantage. Yeah, Lando, a little bit sad for him.
Yeah.
So now we had a very exciting season. This season is over. We'll be talking about it for like years to come, especially in this first 2 months that till the next season comes in. Next year, Lewis pairing up with this young, talented, another Brit guy, George Russell, and Max Verstappen now anyways the number 1 driver of Red Bull and for the world. Do you think Max will be able to defend his title, or Lewis can challenge it? I would say, going past his years of hybrid era.
It's difficult to say for next year actually, because I think next year is a whole new reset. There are new cars coming up altogether. And I think the new cars also, they have designed in such a way to make racing better. So I wouldn't definitely discount even some of the other teams coming forward, like Ferrari coming forward, and maybe we might have a Ferrari world champion next year. We don't know. But can Max defend his title? Definitely the momentum is with Max right now. He is the man to beat. Lewis, it would be interesting to see how Lewis would be able to deal with the dynamics of a new, like you said, George Russell coming. Would we have another Hamilton Nico moment in Mercedes? And when they're tearing their hair out, how to manage their drivers. But yes, I think I would say that the momentum is with Max right now going into this winter break, and Max does have a good chance. But we'll have to wait to see how the next year's cars, and I wouldn't discount some of the other teams also coming in. Maybe Ferrari, you might have a Ferrari world champion, you might have a McLaren world champion also. You never know.
We never know, anything could happen. So, Bhargav, do you think that Russell will play that number 2? Because Mercedes have now won 8 titles. Let me again clarify this, guys. To all those out there, Mercedes have won 8 titles, 8 constructor titles as a team, which is any 7 they won last year. They broke their own Ferrari's record. They broke free from that. They went to 7. This year they went to 8. Mercedes is right now in uncharted territories. No one is challenging them as of now. Red Bull lost this opportunity, but for them to win a 9, we need a Hamilton Russell working together. So, Bhargav, do you think Russell will give that space to Hamilton, or he'll say no? I'll take care of my place. You take care. We'll see later.
No, I think at least for the initial phase in Mercedes, he would have to play the good number two in order to, save his seat. I think he'll keep that long-term goal in his mind, at least towards the start of his career with Mercedes. But of course, knowing Russell, knowing how good he is, he wouldn't give up on an opportunity which comes to him naturally. So if he does have that, good control over the car, if he's actually leading, I don't think he'll be asked to hold back for Lewis in any of the races to come. But that's to see. And I think he's an excellent driver in himself. He's put Williams into points after like several years. Talking about Ocon, he was also one of the he was also on the podiums in a very strange manner, but albeit whatever the circumstances, still made it there. So I think, and also he's got an opportunity to drive with Mercedes once when Lewis tested positive with
in
COVID.
Bahrain Grand Prix.
So yeah, so I think he really showed his mettle, and I think towards the beginning of the career he may be a little subdued and calm and composed, but later when he's like he may, I think, even try to challenge Lewis, is how I see it.
So is he going to be subdued, Ruben, or do you think he's going to just say that, okay, enough of respect, we are racing here?
I think it's going to happen like what happened to Leclerc and Vettel when Leclerc came in and he was very subdued initially, and I think Ferrari also told him that you are the number two driver.
Number two driver.
Like Maggie said, I think initially that will be how it will be like that for the initial part of it.
Okay. Before we close up, before we sign off, one wild prediction for 2022.
Max Verstappen.
No, wild. We are all Verstappen guys now. We are all orange. I'm full going orange.
Okay, then apart from Verstappen, the second guy I would root for is Leclerc, because I mean he's really pushed Ferrari this year. Of course, Sainz is the one who ultimately took it with his last podium in Abu Dhabi. But throughout the races and like 2 pole positions, Leclerc, I think, really has a drive, and he really wants to see put the red car on the top.
So Leclerc for Ferrari. Ruben, Ferrari or no?
For me, I would say Norris with McLaren might just be a champion, and because he has grown over the years, and I think he has really matured, and he has performed against it's against somebody like Daniel Ricciardo's caliber, and he's a much more mature driver than many of his other peers also. So I think Norris is I would go with Norris for next year.
Okay, cool.
What about you, Savio? Who would you?
So
who's your wild prediction?
Wild prediction 2005, when I used to watch Ferrari was so strong that FI introduced such a tire rule that it was like no changing the tires during the race. And for a person like Schumacher who had to burn the tires to go fast. That's it, guys. That's it from the race marshals at Sports Republic. So we had Bhargav going for Leclerc and Ruben going for Norris and me going for Sainz. Basically, we are all crazy F1 fans and we want someone new to win next year. Although if Max wins, none of these three will have any issue. But for the sake of the sport and for the new regulations coming in, we hope a new championship and something as exciting as 2021. Till then, stay tuned to the channel. Keep liking, keep sharing, and keep subscribing to the channel. The icon is there at the bottom of your screen. And until then, see you next time. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.